Welcome to the Metals Investors Forum, May edition. My name is Brian Leni. I'm the editor and publisher of Junior Stock Review Premium. Today with me, I have my presenting company, in particular CEO, Ewan Webster. Ewan, thank you so much for presenting with me this edition of the Metals Investors Forum. You guys have had one of the best, probably first 4 or 5 months of the year, sort of transformational and from my perspective in terms of what's happened, not only in the share price, but who has come in as a strategic investor in Centerra Gold. Can you tell us about Centerra's investment, what that looks like, and what it means to Thesis to have them?
Yeah, I mean, just last week, Centerra came in for a 9.9% strategic position. And I think in this sense, it actually is very strategic. $24 million cash injection, which is great. But beyond that, I think there's a lot of upside to having them as a shareholder. They've got deep expertise in British Columbia. They've got the producing Mount Milligan copper porphyry deposit at the moment. But probably more importantly is the Kemess asset they have, which is just 45 kilometers from our Lyres project. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it's a copper porphyry system, fully permitted mill, went into care and maintenance about 2012, but up until that point produced about 3 million ounces of gold, 750 million pounds of copper. And it's sat pretty dormant for, a decade or so, but Centerra's been doing quite a bit of work on it recently. And just earlier this week, they put out a new resource on Kemess, 5 million ounces of gold and about 1.8 billion pounds of copper. And they are working towards a PEA by the end of the year. But for us, it's about how we can potentially, leverage their expertise, but also, the infrastructure that they have in place at Kemess. They've got a 50,000 ton per day nameplate mill. They've got a fully permitted tailings camp, and all the kind of logistics set up to operate that mine. So, how can we leverage that infrastructure? And also, what could that potentially do for our permitting timeline?
I guess that inference is how that stuff does tie together. And I think it's pretty obvious to me. And that's why I talked about it being transformational, because, not only does it make sense from that point of view of how things come together, but it's such a validation already on what Laura's Ranch is. Yeah. And that close to 5 million ounce gold equivalent. You guys are going to do an exploration program this year. It's going to be focused on discovery. Tell us what that blue sky is.
Yeah, it really ought to just be kind of discovery focused. And we've not announced exactly what it's going to be yet, but let's say it'll be in the 15,000 meter range, I think. Don't hold me to that, but in that range anyway. And I'd say a good 10,000 of that will be looking at branch. It'll be, I think this will happen naturally. We go back into some of the zones we've drilled before, so there'll be some natural expansion, but really it's about testing new targets. I think we probably have about 15 targets that have the same geochemical, geophysical characteristics as the known zones of gold and copper mineralization. They're within that 40 square kilometer alteration footprint, which is huge. On top of that, recent discoveries in the district, A-Mark and Freeport, new gold copper porphyry system right at surface hadn't been drilled before. But what that means for us is, it gives us more conviction to drill some deeper holes to test our porphyry targets. And we also brought in a new chief geologist earlier this year in February, Evan Oravan. He's a world-renowned porphyry and epithermal expert. So he's currently designing our program for the summer. And, he's brought a wealth of knowledge to the team. So I'm really excited about the, leveraging the upside that remains on the project. The fallback for us is basically, pretty close to 5 million ounces and keep moving the project forward, keep de-risking it through feasibility PFS permitting. But at the same time, to your point, let's see what else it has to offer.
Right. And that exploration upside in terms of, where we are in the cycle, this sort of rising gold price environment, I think it means that much more, especially with the silver component you guys also have in terms of torque. It would seem like that could be really what's leveraged by the market moving forward. Not only that, but the discovery potential. You talked about the PFS. I thought something personally as an investor, and it's something I look at when I do my own modeling in my original due diligence last year, was looking at, the majority of your resources already in the measured and indicated category, which not only to me adds more confidence into what that PEA said, but also lessens the capital load on executing on the PFS. You don't need to do that infill drilling as much. You can focus on the exploration. What else, when do you expect the PFS, and what else do you think we can look forward to in terms of more details coming to light?
Yeah, so the PFS, we kicked that off in December. We brought in Toodoggone Mining Plus to lead the PFS. We were looking for a kind of globally recognized brand that has the ability to take this through to construction and onto production. They've been fantastic so far. We've gone through a cold eyes review of the PEA, and to your point, there was a lot of confidence in that, I think, and no red flags were really raised. And as you said, we didn't have to go back and do a big infill drill program. So basically, all of the kind of boxes are ticked, allow us to just roll straight into the PFS. It's very much on track for kind of early Q4 this year, I'd say. And I don't think you're going to see any material changes to the kind of scope and scale of the project. It's pretty vanilla. It's pretty straightforward. These are good things. From my perspective, it's really about, and a lot of the trade-off studies that we're doing at the moment are about optimizing the design, the flow sheet. Stay tuned for that.
Excellent. In these rising gold price environments, to me anyways, developers such as yourself with exploration upside are exactly where I look to be, or in terms of as an investment. Recently, I moved my position up over 10% allocation. I want to be leveraged to that in this environment. And I think this is the part of the cycle, at least in the Lassonde curve type of talk, where the developers kind of escape that trough and really become the preeminent place, I think anyways, to put your money. Discovery potential, underlying value already in the books. To me, Thesis checks all the box, and the catalysts moving forward, I think, separate them from the rest of the developers out there. Ewan, thanks so much for presenting with me, and I look forward to the rest of the year.
No, thanks for having me, Brian. Pleasure.